How's it going, guys? It's Kevin from Subispeed. Today we're going to be working on the back of our STI on the tail lights. If you take a closer look, it looks almost as if the car has a black eye on the driver's side compared to the tail light on the passenger side, and that's because I have opened these tail lights up, blacked them out, and installed the brand new modified technology C-bars and reverse lights. And that's exactly what I'm going to be showing you how to do today. It's a little bit of an involved process that's really not too hard, just a little bit time consuming, but when you take a look at the results, it's definitely worth it. So the first thing we're going to need to do is remove the taillights. To do so, you pretty much want to remove everything inside your trunk, get rid of the trunk liner and the trunk flooring. That'll make it easier to route the wiring later. There's just some retaining clips that are holding those in, so once you have those removed and set aside, we can unplug your taillight. And then there are 3 8mm nuts on each taillight that are holding them in place. Once the nuts are removed, you should be able to slide your taillight straight back and off the car. With the taillights off the car, we'll want to remove the harness on the back, so get everything out of the sockets. There's going to be a black connection behind this foam, and then you'll need some sort of pick tool to press down on the tab that's holding this connector in place. There are also 5 Phillips head screws on the back of the taillight that you will need to remove. With everything off the taillight, now we can start cutting it apart using either a dremel or a hot knife. If you take a look at the pictures and the instructions, that'll give you a good idea of where you need to cut. And if you take a closer look at the taillight, there is an edge that goes around the taillight that'll help guide you to show you where your cut needs to be roughly. When you get to the edge that's on the inside where it has these supporting pieces, you'll want to be on top of those, and then you're going to go around this area where the screw goes in and back on the edge. So when you're cutting your taillight, you want to be careful not to cut in too deep, otherwise you'll nick the reflectors that are on the inside, so be careful about that. And then you're obviously also going to wear some protection. You want some gloves, a mask, and some eye protection. Once you've cut all around the taillight, you can go around with a flathead to make sure there aren't any spots that are still connected. And if you've got everything cleaned up, you should be able to pull the backing off of your taillight fairly easily. There are 3 Phillips head screws that are holding in this LED board that you'll need to remove. With that out, then you can carefully remove the rest of the reflectors. Now, if we take a look at the back of this reflector, to remove that sealant cover, it is melted in at 2 places, and then there are 3 clips that you'll need to squeeze and push out to remove that. Now, if you want to paint the reflectors black, you'll also need to remove this portion right here and also the plastic insert on this reflector. Same thing on those, they're melted in. Just grab a knife and cut off those pieces that are melted on there, and then you should be able to pop them off. I'm gonna black out these chrome reflectors, so I've removed all the plastic covers. Now, before we're able to actually paint these, we need to take this reflector here and then we're going to cut out these two openings in the corner here, these two in the middle, and then this one on the bottom. We need to open those up so that the wiring for the C-bar can pass through them. So cut those open, test fit your C-bar, make sure the wiring fits and the C-bar sits flush in this slot. And then once you have that done, we can clean up the reflectors, sand them down a bit so the paint has something to etch onto, and then we can get everything installed. So I've got the holes cut and the C-bar test fitted and it fits perfectly. So I'm going to pull this back out. Here's what those holes look like now, just to give you an idea of what you need to cut. Now I'm going to clean this up along with this piece. Sand it down with some 600 grit sandpaper. Make sure it's all clean, and then I'll spray paint it with some satin black paint. So I got everything painted in the satin black paint, let it dry overnight. Now I'm reinstalling the plastic inserts. For this one right here, there aren't any tabs that are holding it in place. So I put some 3M along the middle here and place it back on there. As for this reflector, I've got the C-bar installed with the wiring passed through those holes that we cut out. This reflector pops right back into place into the tabs. And once you have the C-bar in place, you can get the cover lined up and get that back in its original position. Now, if you're just installing the C-bar, you're done with this portion. You want to get everything reinstalled back into the lens and then put the backing on, and then we seal it back up. But we blacked everything out, and we're going to be installing the reverse light, the LED reverse as well. So you feed that through the hole, and then you want to line this up, and then press it into place so that it stays put. Once you've got that in there, we can put this back into the lens and we'll get everything sealed back up. Once you get the backing reinstalled, we can start sealing it back up. So I've got the taillight pretty much put back together. I've got the 5 screws screwed back into place, and now we're ready to add the sealant to get this sealed up so we don't get any condensation. I'm going to be just using some black silicone that you can find at your hardware store. You can just pick up any sealant that you have available in your area to get this sealed back up. So you want to get a nice bead around that edge that you cut and make sure there are no gaps. Once you have a good bead all around the seam, you can go around with your finger and smooth everything out. So while we wait for the sealant to cure and dry, we're gonna work on getting the wiring routed so that when the taillights are ready to go, we can just plug them in and install them. The first thing we're gonna need to do is grab the black and white 12-volt power source and ground wire, and we're gonna route this from the trunk all the way to the driver's side footwell where the fuse box is. So to route that wiring towards the fuse box in the driver footwell here, your door sills just pop up real easily and you can run it under the carpet up to this position here. And then you're gonna want to install an added fuse and install this into the front fog light added fuse, which is the bottom row, third one to the left. It's gonna be a 10 amp fuse. So take that out, install it into the added fuse, and then you can install the added fuse into that slot. So once you have that power wire routed to the fuse box, everything else is pretty self-explanatory and it's labeled very well. For example, these are going to go to the C bars. They're labeled either left or right, and then A, B, and C, so you know exactly where they go. You wanna make sure to get the orientation correct. So you've got white, blue, red, green, black. So you want to do the same thing on the other end. So make sure you got those correct. And then you have these here, which are going to be your left and right turn signals, your running light, brake light, and a show mode. So what we're basically going to do is take the harness that came off of your taillight, and you're either going to T-tap into these wires or modify them so that we can plug them into these. So that's exactly what I've done with this harness here. I have cut off these 3 connectors, the one with the red and black stripe wire, black and green stripe wire, and then this black connector right here is all cut off, and I have crimped on some female connectors that'll plug right into here. So I'm gonna go through the wires real quick. The brake signal wire is gonna be the white wire with green stripe. So that was one of the wires that went into the black connector. Your left turn signal and right turn signal are gonna be a black wire with green stripe, and those are gonna be dependent on what side of the car you're on. So they're on either side, they're gonna be black with that green stripe. And then your running light is going to be the white wire with red stripe, which is also one of the wires that went on that little black connector. Now, once you have all those sorted out and plugged in, we can get this back on the car, and then I'll show you how to do an extra install on a remote for the show mode. Also, one other thing, if you want to make this a really clean install, you can keep these connectors right here that lock into place onto the back of your taillight, and instead of having to make a gasket sealant around those wires that are coming out of your taillight, you can drill these out, take the connectors out, drill them out so that the wires can pass through these, put them back into your taillight, and lock them into place so you get a nice seal. I'll show you what I'm talking about on one of the taillights that I've already done. So here are those connectors I was talking about earlier, which I retrofitted back in here. I have the C-bar wires coming out of this connector here. I had to drill those out so all 3 of them fit. And then I have the 2 reverse light wires coming out of this connector right here. They lock right back in position and it looks OEM. So to install your show mode remote, it's this little box right here. The blue wire is gonna be your antenna. You don't have to do anything with that. The red wire is going to be your 12 volt in. So this needs to tap into the red wire of the power on the harness, the C-bar harness. And then the white is gonna be your 12 volt out. So this goes into the red wire that says show mode on that harness. And then the black wires are gonna be your ground. It's that easy. Once you have that plugged in, you can control your show mode with a click of a button. The taillights are all sealed back up. I've got them reinstalled in the car. I'm gonna hop in, go through the functions, and show you what's different. So we'll start off with the brake light. Then we'll go to the hazard. Then we've got the left turn signal with the brake. And then we'll do right turn signal with the brake. Then we'll switch over to the running lamps. You can see that it has that sequence that fades it in, and it also sequences off. Then I'll put it into reverse, and you can see how bright those boards are. There's a bunch of LED chips on there, so you're definitely gonna be able to see where you're backing up into. Last but not least, we've got show mode, which I can control with the remote control that I installed earlier. All right, well, there you go, guys. Those are all the necessary steps to install the Modified Technologies taillight upgrades. If you want to pick up these for yourself, head on over to our website. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email us or give us a ring. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our latest videos. I'll see you guys next time.